All right, everybody. Welcome to Humble Pie Podcast, Episode 4. We're here to present to you the Spurs at Pistons NBA Finals Game 5.
I'm going to interrupt, and I said I wasn't going to interrupt. I didn't get to do the countdown.
We're off to a fast
Go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Get them.
All right, guys. What's up? Humble Pie Podcast, Episode 4. You guys ready to do this again today? Or I guess I should say, I guess it's tonight in our areas. Tyler, you just got off work. How you feeling? You ready to do this? You got enough energy?
I look forward to this every day.
All right, good. Casey, how you doing, big man?
Doing fantastic. Just
Whoa,
painted
look
all
at
day.
Tyler. Look at that. Look at he shaved a little bit there. He's looking a little cleaner. You think because you think he's getting an ego because he's getting a little on TV over here?
I think he's starting to get a little jealous of the celeb fam.
What the hell is this?
You guys ready for some real sports to come back like me?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
I can't wait, man. I love watching sports, but I need something live every once in a while.
You know, the good thing about watching these rewatchable games is kind of fun to at least kind of, for me anyways, I kind of forget about some of these players and I totally forget about some of these guys and like how good they were. In some cases, maybe how overrated some of them were too. So I am enjoying watching some of these old games though and going back and looking at them.
Yeah.
That's fun. I love it. It flashes back to childhood, honestly. I mean, only 30 young, but I mean, still just – it's weird watching the game sometimes. I'm like, man, I used to think that guy was hella good because they, like, rated him, like, an 80 and shooting in, like, NBA live.
It's true how much I thought about that stuff. Like, Casey, you're right. Like, because we played video games. I mean, that's just how we grew up. Like, maybe our parents didn't do that, but then our generation started playing video games, and we would do
I knew
those
rosters better than all my friends because of playing video games.
Yeah, we would do those franchise modes, and like those things are pretty accurate for the most part. They're not perfect, but they're pretty accurate. And like you're right, you kind of look at some of them, and you're like, I guess that's not how I would play with them, like or something like that. So it is kind of interesting, like how you say that. Like it's so true.
It's weird, man. Like when I watch it half the time, I'm like, man, I used to think like, I don't know, like Matt Geiger was like a dominant center, and then I'm like, man, I'm like, he was like, what the hell is Matt Geiger? Like when
Mr. Clean. All right, so let's talk about the game we decided to do today. We're gonna do San Antonio Spurs at Detroit Pistons, Game 5, 2005 NBA Finals. Tyler, you decided to choose this game this week. What was your reason? Why did you think this was a game you wanted to pick? What did you think what about it made you want us to rewatch it?
Well, I knew it had an exciting ending that I remember what it was when it happened. I was just standing up in the back of my parents' room, and I was like, what the – Ori really does this again? And then I just wanted to reminisce and watch Tim Duncan and actually appreciate him because I wasn't a big fan of his. Thought it was boring, but –
Why didn't you like Tim Duncan?
He jumps 22 inches, and he's great. I can't talk bad about him. He's just not the most exciting.
You mean you weren't? You didn't. They were kind of from San Antonio too. Like that's the thing. Like they were kind of a boring team. You're right. Like they weren't like the most like flashy team.
Well, growing up, if like your favorite player's nickname is the Big Fundamental, you're like, I want to grow up and be the Big Fundamental. You're like, nah, I'm good.
You know, I
don't want kids on the playground calling me, hey, there goes the Big Fundamental.
I was thinking about Tim Duncan. If I was like coaching him, he'd probably be like the most ideal player you'd ever want to coach.
Oh, for sure.
You know what I mean? So I think that's his greatest strength, and he does show a lot of it in this game too. You know, in this game, he's pretty like he's not like spectacular, but he's pretty consistent. But he does struggle at the free throw line, as we'll talk about later in this game, which is kind of interesting because he's not a horrible free throw shooter, you know, for his career.
But he does make winning plays, though. You know, he just does what it takes to win, and that's what a champion's all about. You know, you might struggle, but you're gonna do the things necessary to all right, boys, this is my team. I know I had a couple bad games before, but we're about to do this. It's on
Yeah,
me.
and it's interesting you mentioned that because he did struggle. He did struggle in games. He did struggle in games 3 and 4.
Yeah, big time.
So
To his standards, anyways.
yeah, I mean he only averaged 15 points per game in those 2 games. So he really, and especially in game 4 where he was a minus 20 on 5 of 17 shooting. So he really
But
struggled
I mean,
there.
it's weird though because the first 4 games were all blowouts. That was like the first.
The last 3 were good games.
Yeah, the first 4 though was like
Yeah,
just
lost.
yeah.
Especially game 1, which was the worst of them. The first 2 games of them all were the Spurs wins 84-69 over the Pistons. And then
I actually remember that. We're talking about how boring is the series going to be, and then they put up an 84-69, and they just forget it. Like the NBA.
Well, and then in game 2, they win. The Spurs win 97-76.
So they had a total of 100.
Basically, the Warriors have almost outscored them in the same team, and then the Spurs lose game 3, 96-79, and then the Pistons win game 4, 102-71. So the teams that are losing are not scoring at all; they're just getting completely dominated. So it sets up a game 5 where, looking back at it and going back and deep diving on some of the articles, it seemed like the Pistons were definitely the favorite. They only had 1 more game left out of 2, but I still felt like because they were the defending champs last year, the Spurs, Tim Duncan, even though he was playing well, he was coming off those 2 bad games, and he had 2 bad supposed ankles. So I would say the Pistons were the favorites at that time, and I kind of feel like they were the team to beat. They had the better roster in this game.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Tyler, what do you think?
No, go ahead.
No, go ahead, T.
When you're playing Najee Muhammad.
That's kind of what I mean. You got Nazi, then off the bench.
You have Barry?
I mean, maybe the Pistons were only bringing off McDyess and Hunter, but that was definitely a little bit better punch. And their starting 5 to me was better than the Spurs overall at that point in their careers. Parker was horrible this game too. So I don't know.
I was like, no wonder Popovich used to yell at him. I was like, man, that's like I'll touch on that later, but man, he was just like, I was like, man, this guy's struggling. I was like, man, he's having a hell of a time out there.
What series did Parker win MVP of the finals?
06, 07. So that was the one versus the Cavs. But I mean, that's when you're going against Mo Williams. You should.
No, I'm not.
That's a shot. Where does Mo come into this? There's no reason to bring him up.
Or who was the other guy? Boogie Gibson, maybe? Is that who it was? Boogie Gibson in there. So, Tyler, you thought this was a good game to pick. You thought it was kind of just something you want to reminisce back on. And you kind of, for the ending, obviously, it sounds like, was the main reason why, which it was a good game.
And I don't know.
And Duncan, of course. So the first quarter was kind of just a slugfest. Spurs are up 23-21. And then we get to halftime there, and it's tied at 42. The only thing that really stuck out to me in the first half, other than they only had the game in Spanish on YouTube, so I couldn't get the game anywhere else, but I did watch it. The best was I did it. Rasheed Wallace played a good first half, and you could see why he was a really good player, and you could also see why the Pistons were really good because they were able to play this style back then where they would just suffocate you in the paint. And back at that time, the 3-point shooting wasn't good enough, and you could just see with Wallace and Rasheed Wallace, and then you add Hamilton, Billups, and Prince to there. That's a pretty athletic 5 for back in that era.
Yeah, they had a lot of 2 through 4 guys, which was kind of rare. They were all even their Billups was pretty tall and strong, but they were all I want to say 6'8", 6'7".
Well, Billups isn't that tall, but
No. I just meant stout though for a point guard. He was he was your prototypical
a rock.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You don't see a lot of point guards post up.
No. So I was kind of curious how this Pistons team came together. Because I don't know what you guys make of this Pistons team. They're I kind of feel like they're like one of those teams where I feel like they should be a little bit more respected, but I don't want them to be too respected. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, I think like Billups a couple of years ago was like, oh, we'd be able to beat the Warriors. I'm like, well, let's not get, I don't see that type of team in them. But I do feel like
score with them. There's no way they could score with them. I mean, they had a great defense. Don't get me wrong, but
that's what I'm saying.
Kevin Durant Warriors or
either one. But I just mean
Warriors team would beat them.
Yeah, I just mean like that's what I mean. Where do we put like this team? Because they were within inches of a Game 7 win. You know what I mean? And if they win this game, they win Game 6 too in San Antonio, obviously. So you get my point. They're almost 2-time defending champions, and so they're obviously had a great team. They went to the Eastern Conference Finals 5 straight years. So
4 All-Stars in 1 year.
Yeah, and they make up for a horrible selection, not of Anthony or Darko over Anthony. Well, they make up for it for at least getting to for Prince at least stepping up and being able to fill that void of a horrible pick, basically. When they could have had more, obviously, but Prince kind of bailed.
Wade.
Prince bailed them out a little bit in a sense in that regard. But what do you guys feel about the Pistons? I just feel like they're kind of a weird team. Like, how do you rank them?
Rank them? I mean, I don't rank them.
Well, how do you feel about? Do you even think about them at all? Do you think they're a quality team?
I think of them and I think of a boring NBA generation. I don't know if it's a generation, but 5 years.
So I thought it was interesting.
Honestly, when I first watched it, I was like, I thought they went back to back for some reason. I was like, but then obviously, you get the flashback and you're like, oh yeah, man, that's when the Spurs were like really good. Like, not really good, but you could just tell they were just smarter. And I think that's what separated. If you're going to ask me, I think the Pistons were better, but I think the Spurs were more championship ready.
Popovich was better than Larry?
Not necessarily. I just think their players' mentality. That I guess you could say so. Yes.
I think that Detroit was pretty mentally was there. Like, I think they're all weren't going to lose their cool or like get like.
No,
I mean, I think the Spurs were too.
I don't mean like that.
Rasheed Wallace could lose cool.
I'm not even talking like that. I just mean like defensive lapses or offensive like choices towards the end where I'm like, you should probably go to this matchup instead of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Do you guys remember the Pistons?
It's easier when you have Duncan to do that. When like they don't have a.
Do you guys remember the era? I'm going to go to a different subject here if you don't mind. Do you remember where they had? Do you remember? I didn't know this, but we talked about it last week when we did the redraft that Allen Houston was drafted by the Detroit Pistons. So he played for the Pistons for 3 years. Allen Houston, okay, and he was on the same team with Grant Hill for a few years. And they had this early rookie contract thing where rookies could get out of it.
Did he actually play?
I think they played for 1 year together in '96.
Well, did he get minutes?
I don't know if he got minutes or not. I just believe, but I'm saying that's kind of the start of a team, right? I mean, 11th pick overall. Like, Hill and him would be a good duo.
Yeah, for sure.
So, anyways, they lose him. Do you remember they get Stackhouse for a few years and they make like the 8 seed 1 year and he puts up really good stats? He
was like their only one who could score. Right?
That's one of their favorite uniforms ever. I love.
He kind of he did the Iverson role.
Yes, or he just scored a lot of points. He won me a fantasy basketball league 1 year. I was happy for that. I think he almost averaged 30 points.
No one asked you about your fantasy basketball.
Sorry. So he gets traded. Here's the trade. The Pistons trade Stackhouse to the Wizards for Hamilton and a 6-player deal for Brian. Wizards also get Brian Cardinal and center Ratko Varda, while the Pistons land Bobby Simmons and Hubert Davis in the deal.
Hold on, where was the janitor getting traded from?
He was getting traded from the Pistons to the Wizards. And
don't disrespect him. He's a champion, Tyler.
So Hamilton goes into that trade. At that time they do have Bill. They just signed. They don't have Billups yet. They signed Billups in the offseason. And that kind of getting Hamilton is obviously the start of their kind of the rebirth a little bit. And so I just thought it was interesting looking back at that trade. It was kind of obviously a good move by Dumars at the time. And then they get Ben Wallace.
Line bust before he got to Detroit.
Who was?
Billups.
Yeah, he was a bust because he kind of had an interesting career because he got drafted by this stuff. He was a third pick overall by the Celtics.
Yeah.
And then he played for the Nuggets for a few years. And you're right, he didn't have a good career. He went to Colorado.
The Nuggets played well. That's when
Nuggets were after the Pistons, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then they get kind of the underrated piece that kind of probably the Draymond Green, I guess you would say, of the Detroit Pistons. They get Ben Wallace, right? Like kind of this underrated player. It says so on August 11th, 1999, he was traded from the Orlando Magic in a deal for the well-known Isaac Austin, and they so after that point, they get him, and then they get Larry Brown in 02-03. That's kind of the start of this team a little bit, and then they end up trading for Rasheed Wallace the year they win the championship midway through with the Hawks for a couple picks. So it's kind of interesting to see how their team was built. They kind of did it kind of through free agency and trades, not really homegrown at all.
Prince was only one.
And then you're right, T. They get Prince in the 02 draft in the 20s.
Well, and they got Darko.
Well, and they get Darko and they mess that pick off. And looking back at that, let's talk about that actually right now. That has got to be the worst pick in the history of the NBA. Like, I think that's even worse than the Portland pick over Michael Jordan, because if you actually look at Sam Bowie, I'm not saying he's better than Michael Jordan, but he actually had a legit college career. Like, he was back in those days, those guys played basketball, and like he was actually a legit player. Like, you know what I mean? This was like, I mean, you passed up on like literally 3 Hall of Famers, and it's got to be it just frustrates me that you don't take the player of the year from Syracuse. You have them perfectly fit in at, oh, what do you need? A small forward. Oh, what's Carmelo Anthony? A small forward. And you don't. It just doesn't make any sense. Like it just mind boggles me to this day that Joe Dumars made that pick, and he kind of gets let off the hook, I feel like, because they won those championships.
Well, he doesn't have a job, I think.
Yeah, but wouldn't you agree if they didn't win that championship, that would be considered the worst pick in the history of the NBA?
I think some people will still consider it the worst pick.
I mean, that's horrible. It literally pisses me off actually even to this day. Like
Odin over Durant.
Yeah, I mean,
but he even still had a great college career. I'm not saying but I watched Durant a lot, and
Durant
was putting up 30 and 20s in college.
Tyler, I'm with you on that one, because by that time, my theory was always, yeah, Durant's gonna have the ball. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Odin has to get the ball passed to him. So give me the guy that can dribble the ball up the court.
Like 7 feet tall. Emeka Okafor was a dominant college player, doing what Greg Oden did. I mean,
he was rookie of the year, Emeka Okafor.
That was a terrible class then.
He was 15 points a game.
Hey, I'm not saying believe Kevin Durant was by far the best player I've ever seen. This is a little off topic, but if anyone ever wants to watch Kevin Durant, AC Law, Texas A&M, one of the hands down best games I've ever seen in my life. And that's
Tyler,
what
I can guarantee if we ever do a college throwback, that will be the game Casey picks.
The best game I've ever seen in my life. By far.
All right, let's get back to the Pistons though real quick. So they form this team, and they're really good for 5 years. And I want to point out real quick though, in the Pistons run, the year they make the finals, how important, even though I just ripped on the pick for Carmelo Anthony, how important Tayshaun Prince was to that team. Like, to me, he is as good as Billups is. as good as Hamilton is, as good as Wallace is, he's kind of that glue. He is that other glue guy. And I feel like his defense in that era was really, really good for being so skinny. And he probably has the play that I think is probably the best defensive play I can think of, probably right up there with LeBron's against Iguodala when he blocked Reggie Miller. I mean, wouldn't you agree? But that's not talked about very much for obvious reasons. Maybe it's not as big as LeBron's obviously that was in the finals, Game 7. But
there's no Twitter. There's no Twitter. There's no Facebook. Like there's not. I mean, there's not. I mean, there might be Facebook back then, but there was no social media like it is now.
Yeah.
No, there was no.
That was the block heard around the road.
Or maybe there's part of the interruption.
Yeah, but I just mean that was like the block heard around the road. Like everybody was just like,
what?
I mean, it was, and it still is. I'm a Warriors fan, die hard, but that was like, damn, that was a good block.
You talking about LeBron or Tayshaun?
I'm talking about LeBron.
Yeah, but do you remember Tayshaun's? That's the one we're talking about.
Yeah, no,
the Pacers.
I remember that, but I ranked LeBron's block over that.
I do too.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
It's in the final, Game 7.
Yeah,
that's definitely the number one. That's definitely the number one block for sure.
Nobody remembers Jordan stealing the ball from Malone in Game 6 and then hitting the last shot.
So we got the Pistons. They formed this like really good team. They beat the Lakers. The Lakers were kind of like a dysfunctional. They're kind of injured by that time they lose to them. By the time they beat them in the finals that year, they pretty much win that series 5-0. I mean, the Lakers get lucky to win that first game. Kobe Bryant goes just berserk the last like 4 minutes, as I remember in that game. So you know what I mean. The Pistons just dominated that series, surprisingly, but they do. They come back. It sets up a good series against the Spurs. The thing about the Pistons of going to that finals is the Pacers and them had a really good rivalry going for a few years there. Don't you think? I mean, that was probably one of the better rivalries as I remember. I enjoyed watching their games, even though it's not my favorite style of basketball.
The Lakers made the playoffs after they lost to the Pistons in the finals.
Say that again?
You said Seattle beat the Lakers?
Seattle beat the What?
Did San Antonio beat the Lakers?
San Antonio. No, I said the Pistons beat the Lakers in and they beat them. And then this year,
Walton came up clutch in that game 1.
And I wanted to remind us to set up the finals here, just to kind of get it back. We'll kind of swing it back here to the game here. Is in 2005, the Suns had the best record with 60 wins. That was the year they kind of came on the map there with 7 seconds or less.
Was that the first year they had it?
Yeah, when they had Quentin Richardson and Joe Johnson was on the bench, and they had Sean Marion and Steve Nash, and I feel like they had somebody else too, but I can't remember quite.
Joe Johnson started, I think.
I don't think he did actually. And then
Barbosa started?
No, they had Barbosa on the bench too. You're right. They had but I remember the Eastern Conference Finals that year had a really good series. That was Shaq on the first year on the Heat, and they lost in 7 games to the Pistons. The Pistons went back to the finals. They won at Miami that year. Do you guys remember that series?
I don't remember that at all. I thought Shaq won his first year in Miami.
He won his second year. Case, do you remember that at all?
No, not really, man. To be honest, I love NBA basketball, but at that time, I wasn't a big East Coast basketball fan, to be real.
Yeah, so they make it there. Tyler, you're right. Joe Johnson did start. They had Jim Jackson off the bench with Barbosa, and Stephen Hunter was also a key contributor off the bench there.
Jim Jackson, Mavericks Jim Jackson?
Yes, Mavericks Jim Jackson. He played a big role there back in the day. All right, so let's get back to the game here. So we set it up. We're back to the game here. We're 42-42 at half. We get to the third quarter. Nazi Muhammad starts it off with this impressive dunk that nobody was expecting. A little out of nowhere dunk.
Nazi was not the starter.
And that's kind of what I mean is, he wouldn't play today. Like, there's no way Muhammad could play basketball today. And so, anyways, we get into Bowen gets a nice Bowen gets a layup around Hamilton. They're up 59-52. Their Spurs seem like they're kind of methodically pulling away. They're putting in the clamps a little bit more. They're definitely playing a lot harder than they were in the first half, even though it was a low-scoring game. Their offense is a lot more crisper. They're getting baskets from bums. Did you guys catch Larry Brown in the huddle after that timeout when he goes, he's like, we got Nazir Muhammad and Bruce Bowen getting baskets. Somebody D up.
Yeah, he's like, they can't dribble.
I thought that was kind of funny.
Just like Larry Brown, the way you said that.
The thing about Larry Brown is, I'll say this. I'm not the biggest fan of Larry Brown's offense, but when you look at his stats, like he made the playoffs with, like when I said the Clippers and Spurs, he made the playoffs with those teams. Like he won everywhere he went. Pacers, they won. You know what I mean? Like to his credit, like those teams did win, even though it wasn't basically the best style. But I do find it interesting that he kind of moved on after like 3 or 4 years, sometimes even less. So he must have been a pretty intense person, is my guess.
If you've only coached with an NCAA championship and an NBA Finals championship?
I think you're right. I can't think of anybody else. I can't think of anybody else that did that. No, that's pretty.
I think there's one other guy, but I don't.
Nobody recently.
No. Maybe.
No, that's pretty crazy that they were able to do that, huh? That's pretty crazy. So I don't know. So
that's probably why they're such a short amount of time. He burns them out. Like,
yeah, that's what it seems like. That's what it seems like. Or he just knows his window and he leaves when he knows he doesn't want to be a part of any rebuilding or anything like that. He just wants to get out when he can. You know what I mean? I don't know.
Sixers. All right, did my time. I'm out. That's good enough.
So 59-52, Detroit goes on an 11-2 run to take a 63-61 lead. You start to see a little bit why the Pistons are good there. Ben Wallace is really active defensively in the lane, getting loose rebounds, kind of just being that energizer bunny. Billups is just basically overwhelming Parker. It just seems like Parker isn't ready for the moment in this game for some reason. I mean, even though he won a championship before, it just Billups' size and this game in particular. Yeah, and
probably only like 22 at that point in his career.
Yeah,
it looked like playing your little brother in the park.
Yeah, he was able to post him up quite a bit, and it was just it just was interesting how he was able to put his body into him quite a bit.
Like Chauncey Billups is like a way better Derek Fisher, the way they kind of like use their strength to like.
Hey, do you guys remember how I wanted to also bring up a quick point about Ginobili's hair. That was kind of a fun, exciting thing.
Yeah.
No, he had long, luscious hair.
Oh, he had the long locks.
Yeah. And you must have watched the Hispanic version.
He should have been an exciting player that everyone liked watching, but I found him boring. I was like, this guy.
And I also want to point out the flopping. There was no flopping even in 2005, as bad as it is now. Just want to throw that out there.
No, Ginobili was one of the starters of the flopping.
Sure, but it's not as bad as it is now. That's for sure. It's horrible now. Pathetic. It's literally a crying shame, Tyler.
Not good.
Don't you just think it's effing ridiculous, though?
Why'd soccer have to get a little bigger over in America?
Oh, my gosh. I want to just slap the shit out of some of those soccer players sometimes because, like seriously, I just want to be like some of those guys take the biggest effing flops. I'll just be like, you son of a... I'm like, get up. What are you
I almost think the NBA is worse now.
What?
Than soccer.
No.
Worse?
No.
I've never seen someone taking a dive going for a layup.
No, the guys in soccer act like they probably those guys are horrible. Horrible.
Okay, the basketball players don't lay down on the ground and keep the thing going, but they flop.
Yes, they do.
Once they blow the whistle, they get up.
There's certain guys in soccer where it looks like they maybe got their baby toes stepped on. It looks like that they react. They're on the ground for 4 minutes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I would literally just be yelling at this guy's ear if I was the opponent right now. So, anyways, yes.
Especially when we all played basketball, like not at a high competitive level, but we've played. If you know,
try to flop.
No, if you fouled someone, and it's
the Spurs were annoying though. And they did kind of remind me of their annoyance at times. Like Bowen was kind of an instigator.
Who?
And Bowen.
Brother Bruce.
And
BJ's
you know,
dad.
and Duncan was kind of just annoying because he was methodical, like Tyler said. So Detroit goes on an 11-2 run, like I said. They're up 63-61. Kind of looks like they're maybe ready to pull ahead. That's what it looks like to me. It looks like they're ready to kind of take control of the game a little bit more.
Yeah.
They're not able to because, of course, the one man in the history of basketball that just seems to just punch gut you right in the stomach, Big Shot Bob. He hits a corner three at the end of the quarter to give him a 1-point lead. And then just to punch him in the balls a little bit more, he hits a three to start the fourth quarter to go up 67-63.
It felt like
this
he
is
was saying, "How do you like me now?"
And this is where I want to point out that one of my biggest issues with the game. Tyler, it sounds like you haven't watched the game in a while. So Casey, let me give you the point. I'm just kidding. Al Michaels and Hubie Brown doing the game. Tyler, are you kidding me on this one? Casey, are you kidding me on this one? Were you guys fans of them doing the game?
I love Hubie because he knows it.
I love Al.
No, listen to me. Listen to me for this reason. Because Al Michaels, I felt like knew nothing about that game. He's just like, they're going to pay me to do the finals. And Hubie was just like literally talking so much. I was like, he's literally giving you like a hockey announcer. Like, he takes the shot, he goes up the court. Like, I was like, all right, Hubie, you got to chill out, my friend. Like,
we're going to talk about the era of basketball.
You know what you're talking about, but you might want to tone it down a little bit.
The thing that Hubie bothers me with is the thing where he goes, it's almost, he goes, when he kind of is, he's so happy about a basketball play, he's kind of rooting for a team, and he goes, there you go. Like,
I think that
was this thing where he goes, there you go. Like when, like, Tony Parker will make a nice little, like, Ginobili makes a nice dish to Duncan or later in the game. And he goes, there you go. That's a good shot.
Yeah, that's him saying, like, that's how you, like, do it.
Yeah,
I don't see it as, like, that's what you're supposed to do. There you go. Like,
yeah,
Hubie's
like,
just not my. Maybe Hubie's just not my. Maybe so. Hold on. So Casey, you like Hubie Brown? If he's on the mic, you like him?
I'm with Tyler because he's, to me, knowledgeable. He kind of reminds me.
Hold on, I don't like Hubie.
Hold on.
Tyler, you don't like Hubie?
Let Casey finish.
All right, go ahead, Casey.
I'm biased because I think he reminds me, and I'm a big Warriors fan, as like a Jim Barnett, where they talk too much, but they're really, really knowledgeable about the game. And they played it as an X's and O's, like back cut, back screen, talk to each other. And when they, like Tyler said, like, that's how you do it. It's like, that's how you do it. That's how I draw up a play.
Tyler?
Yeah, I agree with you, but I still don't like listening to him announce.
Okay, and then I have a bigger issue.
I don't like looking at him. He's almost like that Al Davis ugliness, like where you're like, this guy's decrepit. I don't want to like hide my eyes. Like, did you ever see what I went about Al Davis? Like, get off my TV. Like an ugly troll.
Tyler, no comment. I kind of agree with him, but I'm not going to go into the detail he did. But I'm not going to say I disagree. Okay, Al, I had a bigger issue with because I think we needed somebody with a little bit more excitement on some of these plays, even though it wasn't the most exciting game. It's hard for me to listen to Al and not think football. So, anyways, they weren't my favorite.
I mean,
my
no
favorite
one's
parts
better
of the
than Costas.
Yeah, he's good, and I also Mike Breen's not horrible, I guess.
You always slurp him up.
Parker's really horrible. Parker's, like I said, is really
terrible.
Okay, but I wanted to point out at least his stats just to give him a little love. He was a 6-time All-Star, 4-time NBA champion, 4-time All-NBA, and he was the 06-07 NBA Finals. So he's pretty pathetic. He's a -13 in this game. So he's obviously
– Parker got great later in his career when he developed a shot. He was almost unstoppable.
And he could get to the hoop. I remember he had a great game against the Warriors one time in particular.
I was at a game. It was Baron Davis's 5th game on the Warriors, and they went to double overtime. The Spurs were playing with nobody but Tony Parker.
Wasn't Baron amazing too?
What?
Wasn't Baron pretty good too?
Oh, he was unreal. I was like, wow, we actually have a guy worth watching. It's not.
Hey,
Chris
I know
Gaffney.
this is gonna get us off topic a little bit, but don't you think Barron's kind of one of those, like, he's not a Hall of Famer by any chance, but he's kind of one of those players that, like, other players probably he was pretty good.
Oh, he's
Like, you know what I mean?
spearing people.
Well, because he dunked on people. I mean, he had some pretty good moves if you look. So he's a pretty good point guard for sure. So
I think in his prime.
Ask
Yeah.
AK-47 how he feels about that.
for sure.
I bet
So-
AK got him like 15 times that series.
So
Nah, it's the last shot that counts, my friend.
The Jazz
All
won 4-1.
Well, let's not get into personal vendettas, but I'm going to say he's
Parker,
better than
like
Carolina.
So Parker, like I said, is like really bad in this game. He's not effective at all. He's a minus 13, only 14 points. He has 6 turnovers and he has 3 assists. So he has double the turnovers that he does assists. I'm sure Popovich is not very happy, but he still does get 44 minutes from him. But this is the Spurs bench. So who are they going to bring off? Okay, this is their bench. Horry plays 32 minutes. Brett Barry plays 21 minutes. He's 1 for 3 from the field. They play Devin Brown 4 minutes. And then you have some of these guys are just horrible. You have Bino Udrich. He doesn't play.
Bino! He had a good year in Sacramento.
You have old school Glenn Robinson, Rasho Nesterovic, and Tony Massenberg.
Skip Bayless loved Rasha.
And
I always thought his name was Nestorovic.
Okay, and the Pistons only play 7 guys. They play Hamilton, Prince, Wallace, Billups, Wallace. All those guys play over 40 minutes. McDyess plays 17, and McDyess is actually really good in this game. Even though he's a minus 14, he has 6 rebounds and 9 points. So he's actually sneaky good, but they'll play well with him on the floor. And then they play Lindsey Hunter 16 minutes. Their benches: Carlos Arroyo, Darko Milicic, Darvin Ham, Ronald Dupree, and Eldon Campbell. So neither of these teams are getting anything off the bench in this game whatsoever.
You're going
except for
deep.
Horry, obviously. Horry for the Spurs, but I kind of consider Horry a starter.
Yeah, I consider
for
Najee a bench player.
For Nazir Muhammad in some sense, or that's the way I look at it. So all right, so let's skip to the fourth quarter. 3 minutes. This is where it starts to get really good. 79 set.
Underrated dunk of all time.
70, and if you watched our earlier podcast, Tyler, which I know you did, I did talk about that dunk during the Lakers Kings podcast.
I was there when we were talking about it.
Thank you. 79 at the game here. 3:02 left. Billups is fouled by Parker. That was kind of where we talked about how Billups just kind of backed in Parker. Ginobili hits a little run. Ginobili hits a little runner to get to 81. And then then the Pistons run a nice little baseline play for Hamilton. Hamilton was kind of an interesting guy to watch in this game. I kind of felt like they could have used him a little bit more like Redick. They kind of used him, I felt like, more baseline to baseline instead of a little bit more towards the wing at times, which would have opened up the baseline a little bit more for Rasheed Wallace more so. And then the other thing that frustrated me is that if you're going to play,
he had 3-point range though.
No, but they could have ran stuff to the wing a little bit more just to open up that swing pass over to Wallace more at the corner. I felt like.
See, I saw it a little differently, Darren, because I saw a lot of curls that he ran. And he was open, but he wasn't willing to shoot it, and then he would dribble out of it, go to the 3-point wing, and then dump it into Rasheed.
Yeah, the thing about Hamilton is he took 15 shots, 7 for 15. He had 15 points, but he didn't even take a 3 in the game. So he's kind of like he's one of those dying breed shooting guards, right? He couldn't play like that now and be in the NBA. He'd have to shoot threes, to survive. So, and I'm sure he would adapt. I'm sure he's a good enough shooter, obviously, where he would be able to shoot threes, but. I thought they ran some interesting stuff from him, but he got a good shot there. And then they start to post up Rasheed. Rasheed makes a horrible play, and he complains, of course, on his little fadeaway there that he gets fouled. They don't give it to him. And then this is the problem I kind of had with Rasheed we'll talk about after the game a little bit more, but Horry hits a three to give the Spurs an 88-87 lead. But Wallace does a horrible job. This is Rasheed Wallace closing out on Robert Horry. It's like he doesn't even close out on it. He just lets him shoot the three. And then so the thing that kind of frustrates me about it is, Horry's not going to go blow by you at that point in his career usually. You know what I mean?
Did you see too much later?
I did, which I understood why, but I'd rather have him do that than shoot a wide open three where you're not contesting him either.
It looked like Space Jam with Robert Horry. I was like, man, it's like, yeah, how far can his arm go?
So we get Hamilton gets kind of an unlucky foul on Duncan. Duncan, who struggles from the free throw line, Shaq-esque 4 for 11. He misses both free throws. I didn't think, I try not to look at the box score before that we watch these because I kind of want to keep it, kind of interesting to know. So I was curious when I looked back at it, and man, I thought for sure he would make those. I didn't think he was going to miss either of those, just thinking the time of the game and stuff. So again, that's one of those things where you're kind of like, your memory is different than what you actually thought like he actually did in those actual moments at times. You know what I mean? Like, you just think he made them all the time, but he did miss them once in a while.
I knew he was a bad free throw shooter.
Like barely over 50% or even under 50% one year.
Yeah, I know he had some bad years for sure, but then he picked it up a little bit more towards the end.
Yeah,
I feel like
he was like mid-60s to 70 once in a while, but like he was just like, when he shot it, I was like, man, that is the flattest free throw. Granted, I am no close to 7 foot tall, but I was like, man, these are the flattest free throws I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like his misses were hitting like the bottom of the rim.
He was in his own head. Like, he'd take forever to shoot sometimes, and then he would just fire one up real quick sometimes.
Yeah, it's like I'm not doing the 10-second count for the free throws.
So Horry's having a really good game at this point. He's got 13 points in the fourth quarter. He's got 3 in the third. So we get to Parker turns his head on the ball.
It's crazy when you think Horry had 0 points through like basically 3 quarters, except for that last second 3 in the third quarter.
Yeah, that kind of just shows what he kind of is and how he's revered. He's just kind of one of those. If you need a big game, you probably want him on your team.
Yeah. Was he a good defender, or was he like an average? Like, what's his?
Yeah, I think he was a good defender because if we, when we rewatched even that Lakers game versus the Rockets, if you remember, we talked about it. There was moments in that game. I think I even brought it up where he's defending Olajuwon towards the end of the game. I feel like Olajuwon shoots an air ball late in the game on him.
Mm-hmm.
He actually gets a couple of big steals. Horry has 24 points in that game too. Like, and then we saw the Kings game with him. We've done a lot of Horry games, and like every game we've seen, it's a playoff game, and he pretty much has a factor in it. You know what I mean?
Well, I know he's clutch, but I don't remember like growing up hearing about how he was a good defender.
Well, he didn't make any. He didn't. I don't think
he didn't play enough.
I don't think he played enough, and for some reason, his best moments were just always in the postseason, where you don't get awards like that. You know what I mean? It just seemed like I don't think he played well enough in the postseason. Like Casey and I talked about, when we did that redraft, I think his first 4 seasons he scored over 10 points, and then after that he never scored over 10 points a game. So I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of what's
his career average. His career average was 7.5 or 7.6.
But I bet if you look at his postseason careers, I bet most of his postseasons are over 10 points a game.
Oh,
it was like an Andre Iguodala at the end of his career, but his whole career was like that.
His whole career, Andre Iguodala, I would say, is a better player.
But Andre was scoring like 20 points a game early on.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the last years with the Warriors, where he was scoring 6 points maybe.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
But he was a factor. He did his like.
Yeah, no, for sure. So let's get to the final. Let's get to the end of this fourth year. So Billups makes a nice little drive. Tony Parker plays horrible defense. He turns his head baseline off the ball, and he just drives kind of right up his back and gets a layup. Duncan goes to the line again. He misses the first free throw, makes the second. So it's tied at 89. 28 seconds left, Pistons ball. they run just a horrible play at the end of the game. There's no other way to put it. It's just a pathetic play. I mean, they get the ball to Billups at the top. I see what they kind of run this weird action where they have Hamilton at the block, and they have Parker on him. So I can see why they want to get Hamilton posting at Parker. That makes sense. But they kind of also are doing this weird thing where they have Rasheed Wallace on the other block a little bit outside, and Duncan's on Wallace. And Hamilton keeps running towards Wallace like he's going to set this screen. And then Wallace fakes like he's going to post up, and then he comes back. And then Hamilton goes back to the post, and they kind of reset again. And they do this weird action twice. And then Hamilton does it again, and then he gets away from it. And then Billups drives because there's only 6 seconds left in the shot clock. And as Hamilton sets the screen, Wallace moves to the middle. Well, who the heck does he bring with him? He brings Tim Duncan with him. And then Duncan, you know what I mean? Duncan's there to basically – it's just a weird play. It made no sense. It was a weird action.
I thought the
didn't get it
same thing. You know what I thought, Darren? And this is my personal – I thought that what they were trying to do was the exact same play that Chauncey Billups scored on. Yeah. But it got ran too late, where Tony Parker was the weak side defender and turned his back and left baseline. But they picked up on it, and they're like, oh, they're just running the same action. But they're waiting for the clock. And then he was just like, all right. And then, but the thing Billups did was he drove middle instead of baseline, but also the defender, you know, was probably told, don't let him drive baseline, force him middle. And he was just like, all right.
But then the other thing that frustrated me about it is that you have Billups on Bowens on Billups. So it'd be like, why do you want to get even though Billups might be your playmaker, I just didn't like the play. It's like, okay, Parker's on Hamilton. Dang, get the ball to him. You know what I mean? It just wasn't a very good play. So 28 seconds left. They make a horrible shot. They miss their chance to take the lead. Ginobili comes back down on a timeout. He misses his lefty runner, which you just think he's going to make. You know, it's just like his shot. And then Duncan misses that tip. We ended up going to over.
That wasn't even
overtime.
Tip. That was not a tip. That was like that was probably the easiest shot he had almost all game. It was just a floater, just chilling at the top of the rim,
like against Miami.
That's true.
Just chilling. I was like, dude, two-hand flush that, or if not, just. I mean, because there's enough time to come down and smash it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So Detroit goes up. Detroit goes up by 4.
That's when I was going to say they almost caught a break when Rasheed Wallace almost called that timeout and pulled the Weber with no time left. And I was like, oh, man, did he do it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no time. Yeah, that would have been bad. So the Pistons get up by 4 after Billups gets a couple free throws to go. Ginobili then makes it just –
in a second, real quick. All right, I'll be right back. I felt like Tyler was just throwing shots towards you. I was like, damn, Mother's Day. Tyler missed out. You were just like, I'm going to –
I was throwing shots?
No, you missed Mother's Day, our podcast. And so I felt like Darren was just like, I'm going to blast the hell out of Tyler.
Mother's Day yesterday.
And just give it to him.
No, he was the one who skipped Mother's Day, which I was perfectly fine with. It's Mother's Day. We're busy. I understand.
Well, yeah.
Mamas
all deserve their day. They get love, but it just felt like it was like, all right, we're ready to go. And then you bailed yesterday, and then Darren was just like, all right, it's on today.
I need to be gentler on Tyler.
No, you're set up.
I was just kidding.
You need to stroke that beard.
Stop it. All right, where were we? Ginobili, it was 93-89, Detroit overtime. Ginobili makes a horrible pass to the corner, just a bullet pass to nobody, basically. I love Popovich's face. It's just like, he's kind of like, are you kidding me? Wallace makes a nice little fade move to go up 95-91 after Parker's after his jumper to go up to make it 93-91. What did you guys think of Wallace's post game? I kind of forgot about it. It was pretty good actually in this game. Yeah, he had that nice little right shoulder
with
fade.
That backboard off his right shoulder.
I forgot how good he was from that distance on his little fadeaway there. He was money. And he had
Is this where we go into our received topic?
Yeah, why don't we go into it before we get to the end of the game here? What do you guys – well, let's hold out. I'm almost here. We'll wait on Rashid here. Let's wait on Rashid here. So 95-91 here. And then we get to the point where San Antonio, again, they seem like they're just a little off. Horry makes an entry pass into Duncan. Duncan bobbles the ball. You know, they're down by 2 at that point. And it just seems like the Spurs, you know, they've lost 2 games in a row. You know, maybe they're not going to pull this one out. You know, something just doesn't seem right. So it's 95-93, 25 seconds left. Detroit again doesn't run a very good possession. Hamilton ends up with a missed tip in. They back it out to Billups though. So Billups gets to reset the shot clock to 24 seconds.
There'd be more
basically.
than 20 seconds though, bro.
Huh?
Yeah,
No,
there'd be more than 20.
after they get the ball. After they get 25 seconds left.
Yeah, I hear you.
And then again, Bowen's on Billups, and they just keep running him. They keep running these ISOs on him, but they finally then bring Wallace over for a pick and roll. He gets a pretty good little look here. Billups, they switch Duncan onto him. Duncan in this game, and in this play in particular, I can't remember. I feel like I don't remember him as a great perimeter defender. I mean, he was a good defender. You know what I mean? I don't remember a lot of point guards wanting to just shoot threes on him either. Like I don't know. Like I feel like he must have been obviously big enough.
That really wasn't the game though.
Huh?
That wasn't the game back then though. The dude pull up threes. It was kind of take him up with drive.
You would kind of think now on this play when I'm watching back at it, Billups takes Duncan to the basket. And I'm thinking if Billups had to do it over again, he would back up another 10 feet and get a running start and probably shoot a three.
Yeah. He was great at those pull-ups also.
He was, and so he didn't do it on this one. He did that more with Denver as his career ended, obviously, as he got a little bit older. So Duncan gets the rebound on their miss there with 9.4 seconds left. Or with 9.6 seconds left.
Did we miss the Horry dunk?
Huh?
Tyler's like, I wanted the Horry dunk.
I don't remember the Horry was. Oh yes, we did miss the Horry dunk. That was when it was 95-91.
The nasty left hand throwdown.
Yes, he has the nasty left hand throwdown.
Who did he throw it on?
I think he threw. I don't even know who he threw it on. Was that on Rasheed Wallace?
Nah, it was Rip.
Was it on Rip Hamilton? Was he the one that came over?
Yeah.
He gets fouled on the play too. It looks like he dislocates his left shoulder. The way he's holding it, when he's walking away, he's kind of like like that or stuff like that. And he ends up missing. He ends up missing the free throw.
He missed it bad. He missed that free throw bad. You could tell it was hurting.
Yeah, so that's what made it 95-93. Then San Antonio has a bad turnover of that. But back to that dunk, Tyler. You're right. That is probably one of the more underrated dunks because if you watch the replay, I mean, he's pretty amazing dunk. You're right, especially for a guy his age.
It's someone you don't think of as
and left-handed.
It's amazing. It's like
Iguodala would have never done something like, you know what I mean? Like he's not probably on his level of athleticism at his age.
He basically dunked on the Monstars.
And then obviously Horry has
that in NBA 2K. You're like, this game's not over. He's overrated in this game. He can't do that. No, like
for sure. I think you're right.
I've never seen him do anything athletic. Really, I mean, like super. I mean, he's an NBA player. He's very athletic, but like, never seen him like hang in the air.
And it was a big dunk. It wasn't just like this, small moment of the game when they're down by 10 or something like that. They needed a basket.
They were down by 4.
Down by 4, he brings them within 2. Obviously misses the free throw, but an AM1 too opportunity. So I think you're right. I think that definitely is one of the more underrated dunks.
Then doesn't he go cash money? He goes cash money on the next one and drill it.
So I kind of skipped, but let's kind of fast forward back to the 9.6. 9.6 left on the clock. This is where I want to talk. What do you guys think? And see what you thought, Tyler and Casey's. They inbound the ball to Ginobili in the corner, the short corner. They throw it to him. throw it over to Ginobili. Horry's the one inbounding the ball, by the way.
UB makes a great point in that point.
Duncan's at the top of the key. He sets a back, or Parker's at the elbow, and he sets a back screen for Barry. He comes to the top, but at that time, he throws the ball into Ginobili in the corner. For some reason, Rasheed Wallace starts to double Ginobili. Ginobili makes a pretty basic NBA pass back to Horry for – it seems like, again, this was a Lakers-Kings rewind. Ball gets kicked out to him for a wide-open three, and he drills it.
Well, this is right after they thought he dislocated his left shoulder, too.
No, I'm not saying that.
I'm not saying that's a reason to double, but I'm just like, man, that's
it just
pretty
wasn't.
impressive.
It just wasn't very good defense. It doesn't make sense to me what Wallace was doing on that play. I kind of rewatched it back to see if Hamilton was supposed to maybe rotate over, but I don't think so. I don't think Wallace was supposed to leave him quite like that.
Yeah.
What did you think, T?
I mean, Hubie said it best. The inbounder's most likely the most
He's the
likely
most
to
dangerous
ball
man.
back.
Yeah, I know as a coach when I run, most of my plays are back to the inbounder. So yes, that is the case. But that's
Because a lot
why.
of times people don't put anyone on the inbounder.
But that's my point. T is why is Rasheed Wallace doubling that, especially a Larry
That's
Brown team?
a brain
Don't you
dead.
think that's part of the reason Rasheed Wallace and now we can't get into the Rasheed Wallace discussion because it's literally I don't understand what he was thinking on that play whatsoever. Like that makes no sense on that. Like that's a game altering play. Yeah, what are you doing? Why are you leaving when you're up by 2 points? I mean, what? Ginobili catches the ball with his back to the basket. He's perfectly guarded. I just don't see I just don't get it. I don't understand.
Yeah, I don't.
I think to me is just sometimes you do things that your coaches tell you automatically without it, and you've been trained over and over and over.
I just don't see Rasheed as that player. I feel like he was like, Ginobili got the ball. I'm
just
doubling
listen.
him.
No, it's because the
You can't
ball.
just make that up in your head just because you think about that guy who does that.
No.
I mean, he could have been ordered to go double, like Jason said.
I don't think he would.
My thing is, the ball, like you're taught, if the ball goes in the corner, you double. So he's like, oh, trap. It's in the corner, which is dumb. Don't
Maybe on
get
a full court press, you trap.
No. Just in basketball, you trap corners. And he was so close, he probably was like, oh, I can force a turnover. Not so much. That's, to me, was just like quick thinking. We were like, oh.
I mean, if you're guarding Nazir Mohammed, yes.
But then that's part of my thing. That's part of my thing when I was saying he's a little J.R. Smith.
That was very J.R. Smith.
Where mentally he has a lapse where it's like.
Yes, he can't control his emotions and he makes dumb plays. That was the same issue.
That's not the emotions I'm talking about. I'm talking about the instinctual play where you're just like, I've been almost brainwashed in a sense, like, computer tells me to go over there. So it's like, go over there. Like, ball in the corner, trap. And then opposed to thinking like, hey, if I trap, this guy's made basically 6 threes, 7 threes this game. Like, don't leave him. But it's like instinctual. We're like, oh, ball go corner. Here we go.
I just thought Wallace did a horrible job on Horry this game. I just felt like he didn't understand the scouting report on Horry. Yes, he did, as Tyler say. You're right, Tyler. He did have that nice drive to kind of maybe prove me wrong where he did dunk. But for the most part, Horry's just going to shoot threes. He's not going to, like, pump fake and try to make a play off the dribble most of the time. You know what I mean?
Well, if he has an open three, he's going to shoot the open three.
I mean, he went 5 for 6.
My point is I'm closing out on him to
that.
make him to drive. Yes, he did. He obviously proved he could do it that one time. But I would, as your scouting report, when you're up by 2 points, I mean, that's what you should be doing.
I agree. I can't defend Rasheed Wallace's defense on that one play. I'm not going to say his whole career he's a terrible player.
No, he's not a terrible player on the whole career for sure. So Horry ends up with 21 points, 7 of 12, 5 or 6 from 3. On the last possession with 5.6 left in the game, Hamilton it looks like it's again not a kind of a weird play. Billups ends up kind of fading out to the half court. They get it to Hamilton in the post. He kind of leans into Parker to draw a foul, and then he ends up not really – I mean, he gets a decent shot up, I guess I would say, but runs out. He had Rasheed Wallace looking back at it, pretty much wide open in the wing there. I think if he had to do it again, he would kick it out to him for a 3, but he missed it. What did you guys think of that last possession?
I feel like the coaches back then were so blah when they would draw up plays. Like,
it was nothing, huh?
Yeah, there's like watching Kerr do out of bounds plays. I'm sure he has someone do it for him, but his staff, they get some.
Do you think a lot of it just comes down to get the ball to the best player?
Well, who's the
I'm not saying Hamilton I'm saying, do you think that's like the main strategy? Just get the ball to one player in space or something? But I kind of like.
If you have that type of player, I don't want to do that with
Hamilton.
Not anyone on the Pistons.
I'm not doing it with Hamilton, that's for sure. But I mean, it's not a bad idea posting up Hamilton on Parker, but I don't know. He didn't get a good look. Let's just put it that way.
To be honest, though, Tony Parker actually played pretty good defense on that possession. Not saying it was
he bodied him up.
Not
really
saying
well.
It was a great possession, but he actually played really good defense.
No, I agree. I think he bodied him up really well too.
Offense should beat the defense. Good offense beats defense, like good defense. So it's not like it's.
No, I'm not saying he's played spectacular defense. I felt like Rip was like looking for a foul, and then.
I don't think Rip's not good at creating his own shot. First off, like that's not his MO. He comes off screens and curls and fades.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
That's why, like, if I were to give someone the ball, I would have given it to Rasheed. He's the one with like the.
Yeah.
Hey, so before we wrap this thing up, what did you guys think? I wanted to bring up a couple things, see what you guys thought. So the Spurs end up winning this game by 1 point. They end up winning Game 5. They're up 3-2. They end up They go back to San Antonio. They end up losing, surprisingly.
It was 2-3-2.
It was, and they end up losing games.
Still that way? It's not like that anymore, right?
It's not like that anymore. No, they end up losing Game 6. Hamilton has 23. Nobody on the Spurs has a good game at all. And then in Game 7, the Spurs win 81-74. Duncan's the Finals MVP. What do you guys think of the Spurs? How do you? I guess they're kind of a weird team.
Again? What was the Game 1, Game 2, and Game 7? That's all I want to know.
So Game 1 was 84-69 Spurs. Game 2 was 97-76 Spurs, and then Game 7 was 81-74 Spurs. So all very low scoring whenever the Spurs won. There was only one team scored over 100 points. Game 4, Detroit scored 102-71. So not the most entertaining game of basketball. But I will say, T, it was kind of I did like going back and watching the game just to kind of see. Like I said, it was kind of a forgotten era of basketball. So I kind of wanted you guys to tell me what you thought of the Spurs in how you kind of view their dynasty over the last 20 years. They went in 99, 03, 05, 07, and 2014. And throughout that time, they never missed the playoffs except for, obviously this year, everybody missed the playoffs. But they haven't missed the playoffs since then. So for me, it's like, okay, that is a dynasty in some ways. But to me, they're real dynasties from that. For me, it's from that 03 to 07. I kind of consider 99 its own year because it's a lockout, and they had Avery Johnson and Sean Elliott and David Ross. I kind of feel like that was its own team. And then the 2014 one was with Kawhi Leonard. So I kind of consider that little that little run there their dynasty. How do you guys kind of view the Spurs overall?
Did the Spurs win both the lockout years?
No, they didn't win 2011. The Mavericks one
against the Heat.
Yeah. So what do you guys think of the Spurs?
To me,
seriously, how do you think they're dynasty? Are they a good team? Are they a crappy team? Like, what are they? Like, how do we view them? Are they just kind of a team that's going to fall under the radar the rest of this whole time, or are they actually like legitimate?
I think they're the greatest franchise in basketball.
No,
I mean, I don't know about that. That's BS. I'm sorry, dude.
No,
how can it be better than the Warriors or like?
You guys didn't let me finish. I said from that era that you're talking about. I'm not saying they had the greatest teams.
They've had,
but I mean, think about it. The Warriors, what? They made it to the final 5 straight years in a row.
So what's their dynasty era?
What they do before that?
Yeah. So what's their
Oh,
dynasty?
the Warriors aren't even on them. You can't even talk about them.
I'm just saying.
But I'm saying, the Spurs dynasty this whole time.
No.
It's not. So when's their dynasty from 03 to 07?
They lost to an 8 seed.
That's yes. So you don't really consider them a dynastic
Not
team.
because of that. I don't know.
They're boring.
Duncan will hold them up, so they'll always be talked about because Duncan was on the team.
Yes.
Because you talk about Duncan this first season, but I don't think those teams are all-time great teams.
Yeah, they'll have 3 Hall of Famers and a Hall of Fame coach when it's all said and done.
But you're winning 84-69 or whatever.
Think about how many Hall of Fame players they had play for them during that 2 decades.
I mean, Kawhi will be a Hall of Famer. I mean,
David Robinson.
He wasn't on those teams, so they'll have a lot of players on those teams. So it sounds like you
guys are just bypassing this like it's nothing. You guys are just being so disrespectful right now.
I'm not being disrespectful. I'm saying they were.
So by the end of this time, they'll have 5 Hall of Famers.
No,
you just basically waved it off like it doesn't mean shit.
No, I didn't say that. I just said they're not.
Their dynasties from 03 to 07 to me. That's what I'm trying to ask. When is their run? Is it the whole 20 years? I'm saying
the whole 20 years, and you guys are bypassing that. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
I agree. That's the most impressive thing is they've done it for 20 years.
That's what I'm saying.
But it's not dynastic.
Winning every other year doesn't make you a dynasty.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can't even get started. So 20 years of excellence doesn't
No, I say their dynasties from 2003 to 2007.
Dynasty? They never miss the playoffs.
No, they're not a dynasty at all. You have to win championships. So, okay, so Casey, you say their dynasty is the whole time. I say their dynasty is from 03 to 07, even though their 20-year run is impressive. That to me that's their dynasty core right there. That's to me where I would say that's their all-time great team is those years right there. This brings me to my next point. Even though they only won one championship.
The San Francisco Giants, were they a dynasty? They won 3 and 6. They did the same thing, but they don't have the 2 bookends.
Yes, I would say that those years were dynastic. When you win 3 and 6 years, I would say that's a pretty good run.
I mean, it's a great run, but it doesn't make you – they weren't even the best team any of those years.
Maybe not in baseball necessarily the same in terms of a dynasty. I guess you're right. But not many other teams are going to win 3 and 6 years, so it's pretty good.
So to Tyler's comment, are the A's 88, 89, 90 teams a dynasty?
No. They won 1. The 70s years are a dynasty.
But they were the best team.
Yeah, but they got swept. They went 8-1.
Yankees were a dynasty in
They went 1-8 in the World Series is that they lost. They're not dynastic. It's I wish I could say they were.
I'm not saying that they are. I'm making it even more strong. Who's stronger?
How so?
Because I'm saying it takes 20 years. You can't just do it for 3 years and say you're the best. You got to do it over longevity.
Yeah. No, I agree that they're the best. I think you're missing my dynastic word. Were they dynastic in any of those runs? And that's the thing. And so what I wanted to go on to was Leonard. Leonard's team in 2014 when they had Kawhi Leonard and they beat the Heat, right? Even though they lost the year before, which they should have won, that team with Kawhi Leonard was a dynastic team in the sense of if they would have kept him, that to me is an all-time great team because now you have this player that basically have replaced Bruce Bowen, who's way better. See, now you have this Leonard guy who's at a different level. So I feel like those teams would have been more the dynamic because that Spurs team in 14 probably could have played the cleanest finals you'll ever see. Basically
they ran them out.
Yeah, they ran them out of the gym. They basically didn't miss. So what I'm saying is Bowen was unreal, but then you take a Kawhi Leonard, then you take a team. Bowen was a really good defender. I mean, maybe not the best player. He was an unreal defender.
It's like replacing Harrison Barnes with Kevin Durant.
That's what I'm saying. They basically upgraded with this draft, and they end up with this player. So it turns this team that already won 3 championships with Bruce Bowen into basically an even better team. Even though the players are older, they're basically getting unlocked. So I just feel like that adding Leonard in kind of made them even better.
I think Popovich's philosophy is what changed the Spurs into that good, more dynastic-looking team.
Yeah, that's true. That could happen too. I don't know.
It did happen. They moved the ball. The Warriors got that from the Spurs.
I just want to backhand the slap out of the dynastic word right now because you guys are abusing the context.
I said it once.
All right, so here's my last thing I wanted to bring up. With you guys before we
we didn't even rank the Spurs were in the dynasty thing. Casey, you think there's some great dynasty? Whether they're the best dynasty in basketball history?
Yeah, so are they a top 5? Are they a top 5 team? Top 10?
Top 5 team? No.
Top 10?
But top 5 organization? Absolutely.
They do have a new owner now. Just to
organization, yes. That's what I mean by dynastic.
They do have a new owner now, so I do think the Spurs are on their way down now. I think their time is over. I think they're going to be one of the.
Did you meet the owner yesterday?
I did not, but I don't think he's going to be as good as this other guy. It'll be interesting to see. I think the Spurs are they're kind of one of those teams that I think they're like how often are this? I mean, they're not they're like this. They're in a very small city. They kind of had this unreal run. I mean, how long can they continue? I don't know.
Pittsburgh's done it for a long time.
They have, but they got David Robinson in the lottery, and they got Tim Duncan in the lottery. Maybe that will continue. Who knows?
Say Pittsburgh
Steelers, yeah.
Huh? No, I said they got David Robinson in the lottery, and then they got Tim Duncan in the lottery. So, that helps.
Pittsburgh's like the East Coast Oakland. It's pretty big. It has.
Because they have the same city name doesn't make them the same.
So, Tyler, you obviously don't keep the Spurs as the top 5 team, right?
No.
All right. So I wanted to get to one last thing here before we get to the end of this thing, is I want to talk about this whole era of basketball, basically. So we have the Pistons. The Spurs end up winning this championship, this 03 to 07 years, where you have this kind of the lost era. I feel like we have the Spurs win in 03. You have the Pistons win in 04. You have the Spurs win again in 05. And then you have the Heat win in 06 with Dwayne Wade. And then you have the Spurs win again in 07. And then 08, you get the Celtics, Lakers, Celtics. So it kind of picks up the national trend again. So I feel like this era is completely forgotten, but there were some good teams. I wanted to kind of bring up a few teams and see what you guys thought of these teams. So back then, the good teams were the Suns. Tyler, those were some of your favorite teams, I know, for sure. Yeah. Some of my favorite teams.
Oh, that's my favorite team I've ever.
That's why he grew out his hair the way he did in middle school.
The Mavericks had some really good teams in those runs too. During some good series with the Spurs. They had Nowinski, Finley, Eduardo Naraha a few times. They had some good teams during that year.
First Mexican-American born NBA player?
No, but they
another
got some
Warrior great.
But but they were always in the mix. They always played great rounds. I always thought they were one of the top 3 teams every year, basically top 4. It seemed like that. And then we get to the East Coast, and then a couple other teams I wanted to shout out on the West Coast just because I enjoyed watching them. They always did make the playoffs, but they were never a conference finals contender. But they did make the semifinals a few times. The Kings were still pretty good in that era from 03 to 07. And then you also had one of my favorite teams to watch back then were the Sonics with Ray Allen and
Vladimir. But they didn't have that.
Vladimir Radmanovic.
Number 77, the best.
Rashard Lewis, and they had Earl Watson, Luke Rittenauer. Yeah, they had a good team. They were fun to watch. And then in the East, we had the Pistons, the Pacers. You had the Heat, like I said, and then we had the Nets, and then you had the Celtics there for a little bit with Pierce and Antoine Walker, but they went away pretty quickly for a little bit there until they recovered. Well, you had Jason Kidd there still hanging on.
Antoine Walker was on the Mavericks.
They made it to the Eastern Conference Finals, though.
So, what do you guys think about that era? That's going to be one of those eras, I feel like, for the history of time that I feel like the Suns are going to probably get the most play out of all those teams. I don't know. What do you guys think? I thought it was kind of interesting looking back on that era.
Duncan holds them up, like where.
If it wasn't for Duncan, huh?
Genova's great too, and Parker's great. They were so boring.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm with you on that. I think that's the takeaway from this game is like, for me, my final takeaway was.
I wish I never picked this game, to be honest.
I was pissed. It took a day out of my life that I don't want to remember. I was just like, man, this game is terrible.
It wasn't the best.
I'm not going to tag on you, dude. But the more I watched it, I will give you the credit, though. The fourth quarter and the OT were hella sick. The first 3 quarters, I was like, I don't know why I picked this one, but I get the fourth quarter and the OT. Those
I guess I just remembered the last 5 minutes. I was like,
yeah.
No, luckily they didn't have the first half in English.
Hey, at least you can admit it. But at least.
No,
but I think looking back at it though, there are some funny storylines that we could find from the game that we just did. Like, so I thought it was kind of interesting looking back at the game and at least looking back at that era again. Like, it wasn't the best, like kind of the best play, but like I was kind of really into sports then, and like there were still some good games that you kind of forget about, and this was one of those games that maybe wasn't the cleanest play, but there was some big moments, and it obviously. But there were some good teams in that era that I think that are going to be forgotten about.
This is a random tribute, but I do have to say thank you, Tyler, for picking out that game because R.I.P. Stuart Scott. I loved him, man. Him as a sideline reporter.
Guy.
Yeah, he was good in that.
Yeah, I was like, I love how he called Larry Brown LB. I was like, no one gets away calling him LB. I was like, he's the greatest to me. I love Stuart Scott.
So, Tyler, your takeaway from the game was you wish you didn't do the game, but I still think my
takeaway is I don't understand how this style of basketball became a thing. Like, watching that Celtics game last week and then watching now basketball and then this happened in between.
I think it'll be
how this happened.
I think it'll be interesting if we watch it.
Like,
I think if we do a 90s game, we might be able to see why. You know what I mean? Because I think that's the middle. That's the middle, right?
I have a quick question for you guys.
But Tyler, Casey, hold on. I wanted to bring up what Tyler said because I listened back to our podcast again about that one. And that game, you're right. Like you bring up Tyler, you bring up a question later in that podcast. You go, yeah, but they were kind of a slugfest because I brought up it was physical. And then I think I made a point like, yeah, but the pace was still high. And you kind of were like, yeah, I guess it is still pretty high. And watching this game, the paces, they
like
never play.
And I agreed with your point, but
yeah, but you agree with the point, but you also brought up, but you brought up the point that you kind of my point was that you brought up the point is that you were hesitant at first, that you kind of assumed the '80s era would be slower than the next generation. That was more my point.
You brought up you loved how they got away with holding and stuff, and I was like, yeah, you wouldn't like that, like if it was, but you're like, yeah, but they don't just.
And I think sometimes when you said that, it made me realize that I think that's kind of how we think about older things. Sometimes it's going to be slower, but you're right. Is how do you get to this point when you see Larry Bird and these guys, Dominique, going up and down the court? It's kind of interesting to look back on the history, and obviously you have Michael Jordan come in, and probably his assault on the air and being able to like rise above made people have to foul him more, and maybe that started this physical era. I don't know. I'm just guessing kind of off the top of my head right now on what might have started. And then you have the bad boys come in. And I think that maybe is the biggest change because they're obviously the more physical team and they start winning. So when the teams win, other teams seem to adapt to the team that wins. And maybe that's what happened in the 90s a little bit. I don't know. That's kind of that's my theory on it.
So what I got out of this is the bad boy Pistons are to blame for everything.
Isn't it funny that the Pistons kind of have these random team they have 3 championships somehow, the Detroit Pistons. Kind of crazy of you. I don't know. Like
remember when they had those green like Grant Hill jerseys? Those were so bad.
Oh gosh, those were horrible.
Those are my favorite.
I got a fake signed autograph from him one time.
I wouldn't even wear that color in public. Like if
no, me either, man. I would either. It was pretty bad.
I think one topic that I think we're glossing over that I wanted to bring up.
I'll gloss over.
Let's hear it, Keith.
To me, I was like, I'm a point guard, 5'8", 5'9" on a good day. But I was like, man, like,
little leprechaun.
Yeah, I was like, man, like, to me, like, I never really watched Kevin McHale play, but And then I watched Duncan. I'm like, they look like the same player, but Duncan's taller and stronger. It was crazy to me. Like, they look very similar. But Mikhail, to me, was a better shooter, if that makes sense. But Duncan was a better – they were like – it reminded me of the same player. It was crazy.
Duncan was a better passer, better defender.
Did you enjoy watching the game we watched last week or this one more?
Oh, last week. I would never watch this.
Do you think the players, though – do you think the players, though, back then you think there was better players in that game than there were in this one?
It was just the style.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I think there's more better players back then, because Bird, McHale.
Just in that game, not maybe that era, but that game, the games we watched.
Yeah, I think that was the thing what I said about this era too. Is the Spurs, like I think this is my biggest takeaway, is how good Duncan is, because I think you're right, Tyler. Is these Spurs teams, like the Suns were good, the Lakers were pretty good, the Mavericks were pretty good, like. They had some probably better all-around teams. You're starting Nazr Muhammad, a young Tony Parker. You know what I mean? Like a Brett Berry off the bench. To me, that's not a great team. And he's the reason, you're right, that they were able to win these championships. He's just
the sole purpose of made everything work. I have 2 points. I have 2. Hold on. I have 2 points.
Go for it.
Going back to what you said about when we were talking about Greg Oden and Kevin Durant, you said you'd rather have the guy with the ball. And Duncan isn't the guy with the ball. Would you rather have Duncan or Kobe?
I think if I was building a team, I probably would rather have Kobe, because you're getting because at the end of the game, usually a lot of possessions come down to 1 or 2 possessions, and you feel like he's getting the ball. If I'm coaching, I might want Duncan though, because I just might not want the damn headache so much. So there is that aspect to it. You know what I mean?
And then Casey, what about you?
No, I just had a brief question. Just kind of popped in my head, but I was like, yeah, I mean, this is obviously different eras, and I hate doing hypotheticals and all that.
So you're not going to answer my question?
Who would you have, Kobe or Duncan?
Oh, that one. I'm sorry, my brother. I thought you were talking about before. I'd rather have Kobe, for sure. I'm not saying Duncan's way less than
for
him.
Me, it's not a for sure.
I'd rather have Duncan.
It's not a for sure at all.
I said not. I would say a for sure only because if you're going to pass them to the ball 30 feet away, he can go to the hoop. Duncan can't do that.
Yeah, but
I feel like you got to remember the Spurs.
3 guys on every defensive possession. Did you know Kobe is the most all-time defensive, not defensive MVP, whatever, but the most making defensive teams?
I don't know.
First team, second team?
I don't know.
He has the most of not all first teams, but just making a team.
I didn't know that, but it makes sense he does, because he was.
I would have thought Bill Russell, to be honest.
I don't know if that back then.
To me, the argument for Duncan is that he's the ultimate professional. He's the ultimate team player, in the sense of that he's not gonna be a complainer. He's gonna be able to kind of go with the flow. He's gonna adjust to coaching, which is always helpful when you're the best player. And
Scotty 1.8.
And the thing about him,
it says Scotty 0.18 for next week.
Exactly, for sure. So I think Duncan's the biggest takeaway for me from this. It's just he just lifted the Spurs. But Tyler, make your next point here.
I have one more question.
Yeah.
Being a coach and just knowing basketball, would you rather have your best player have Jordan's mentality or Duncan's mentality? Being a coach.
I'd rather have Jordan's mentality. I mean,
you'd want to coach that though, or
yeah, because I think at the end of the day, for me, anyways, it is nice to have a guy out there. I've only coached a couple guys like that have been able, they're crazy enough, but they're able to reel it in enough to where you just you can back them. You know what I mean?
But he almost didn't reel it.
No, he did. But I think because he's so talented, you're giving him a little bit more leeway.
Talented to act that way.
Yeah, I think Duncan's the easy answer to all that. I mean, he's 5 championships.
Kobe's got 5.
He's just such a professional. It's tough. You're right. Duncan's he's just such a good player. So I think you rather have Duncan than Jordan?
No.
Just his mentality you're talking about.
No, not even. I was asking you. I don't know whose mentality I would rather have. I think they both.
I think give me Jordan's mentality, because as a coach, I want my other players. I'm good with another player coaching him, especially if he's my best player. So give me Jordan. I think give me that mentality, even if it wears you down a little bit.
They don't really get in, or at least they haven't yet gotten into how coachable Jordan was. Like if Phil could yell at Jordan, like I don't.
No, let's kind of go from the game. You bring up that's a good leeway from the game here to like what we kind of wanted to briefly talk about, because we only got a few minutes left here before our 2 hours run up. Is The Last Dance. What do you guys think about those first 6 episodes? Tyler, you were just gonna start bringing up a point about it.
The first 8, my man.
Or no, I know, but we're only gonna talk about the first 6.
Oh, we're doing 6 tonight. All right, leave a little teaser for next week. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, we'll watch the last 4. Remember the pregame we talked about?
Well, it seemed like I was pre-gaming before you were pre-gaming.
I can tell you were pre-gaming. So that first 6 episodes, I find it interesting. Next week we're gonna kind of do a finale. On Sunday we're gonna do a finale after to kind of talk about it. But Tyler, what were you gonna bring up about the Last Dance real quick though?
What were we talking about?
Maybe he was pre-gaming before I was pre-gaming.
I was ready to go. I had it all going, and you were like, all right, that's a good leeway. I was like,
My man.
I mean, with Jordan having a finished career, like, and I already know what happened, like, he can't do anything wrong in my, like, just the way, like, it all worked perfectly, like, how – I mean, he lost to the Magic, sure, but that almost makes it even cooler. He came, like, he leaves for a year and a half, and he comes back and is still the best player in the world. He retires a second time, and he's still the best player in the world when he retires in '98.
I think the key for me so far the documentary is kind of especially the last episode what you talked about, T, was I think that retirement, though, was able to give him a breather. You know what I mean? Like, if a lot of other – like, that, it's a restart. It's a re-motivational. It's a especially with his dad dying too. Like, if he didn't do that, like, they probably would have lost in a few. You know what I mean? A year. They probably would have lost to the. No guarantee
to come back and be the same.
No.
Most people. I've never seen any athlete come back like that.
No, I think that's also. It's probably also to that NBA wasn't that great in some ways. It would have been interesting to see. It would have been interesting to see him play against those Akeem teams, if he would have never left. Because
Akeem was in the league the same year he got there.
I know, but I don't like the fact that Jordan. Yeah, but you can't blame Akeem either for playing the Bulls when he wasn't. That's all my point is I think of Jordan based on this documentary. He was pretty burnt after the first 3 years. Even if he comes back,
he was burnt physically. I think
maybe not, but mentally. So if he comes back for that 4th year and you have a motivated Rockers team, you have an Akeem at the top of your game, and you don't have Horace Grant anymore, like you didn't have it. You know, you don't have, maybe you have a few more injuries after 4 straight years of the finals. It's not a guarantee that he would. It's not like he. I don't think he would have just swept through the 90s. Is what I'm saying. I think he would have lost one of those years.
I'm not betting against it.
I think he would have won 10.
Yeah, I don't think he would have won that many. I just think he would. I just think. I think what happened.
Maybe he's burnt out
for sure.
Mentally, but that's not him. He's mentally doesn't get. He was like, I can't do this. I'm gonna leave. Like to the ability I want.
Imagine if he didn't retire after '98. Like, my God, like he missed 2 years. Exactly. I mean, he missed 18 months, then retired. Like, basically, like Barry Sanders. Like, I'm good. I'm out. I'm the best at what I do. So, but Barry Sanders played on the crappiest team. He played on the best team, which is obviously a way different sport. But I mean, 5-on-5 is like.
Just getting back to how shitty is that owner? Could you imagine that happening now? You choose a GM over Michael Jordan, like.
Man, you would never be able to go into a basketball arena again.
I'm surprised the NBA didn't step in and like you're gonna make us lose our cash cow, like, because.
You blame the owner. You said you blame the owner more, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Because the GM, I mean, obviously the owner.
Well, the GM's an idiot too.
Well, I mean, the owner, like you said, you can fire him.
I think the owner.
he was
I
kind of
think
known
the
to be
owner
cheap.
just sat by and kind of was like, "Oh, well, this is what the GM wants to do," but everyone knows.
I thought it was interesting how
Owner is ownership of property. I'm not saying ownership of people, but when you're under contract, that's basically what it means. So who's got the responsibility?
good knowledge.
No, I'm just being real though. I mean, that's how it
I
is.
didn't know we had Webster's Dictionary in here.
I ain't the smartest cat, but I know if I own something, that's damn sure mine.
But I can copy Wikipedia all.
I don't even need Wikipedia for that shit.
How?
Hey, but that Jordan
I
thing.
bought that beer. I own that beer.
We only got a few, but the thing with the Jordan, last point on Jordan, because we only got 2 minutes left on the recording here is, what did you guys think that hit the take? What did you guys think of the point where I thought it was funny when he got leaked, when he's at that baseball game, and it comes out that he's getting retired, basically.
Oh yeah.
I just thought that was kind of fascinating. I don't remember like any of that stuff at all. So it's kind of cool looking back at that stuff. What are you guys looking forward to the last? In case you saw 7 and 8, I haven't seen 7 or 8, or obviously the last two. We're going to talk about it Sunday. What are you guys kind of looking forward to the end of this thing? And have you guys enjoyed it so far to this point?
Go for it, Tyler. You seem relaxed right now.
I don't know. Michael Jordan's fascinating. He's
fascinating.
Everything. He's just like he's different. Like people say, like I've never walked in a room and he's been in it, but like he'll walk in a room and like the whole attention goes to him. Like
he's the greatest athlete in our time, right? Greatest icon.
In my opinion.
To me, it's either him or Tiger Woods, but Tiger Woods obviously had his fall, so it's probably it's obviously Michael Jordan.
I mean, but that's a different type of athlete too.
Yeah, it is. And just in dominance, I guess, is kind of how I look at him. Just dominating a sport.
Yeah, they both
are. And golf, obviously, is the last one. Case, what your final thoughts? What are you looking forward to the last few episodes and the last dance?
MJ, man, dude, he's polarizing, captionating, just like everything, man. Like he breathes basically God's air. Like it's crazy.
He kind of breathes coolness too, huh?
No, it's just like you.
Yeah,
watch
he's just
him,
exudes.
I wanted to beat him in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. It's 2020.
The 80s.
Still people want to beat him. That's
when
crazy.
I was 2, I wanted to be.
No, for real, though. I mean, you think about it, like...
Why are his eyes so yellow?
84 is when it came out.
Too many cigars? Isn't that fascinating watching him smoking cigars? Like,
hey, I was going to ask you guys about
no one did it like that, though.
Casey, have you ever smoked a cigar?
See, I thought he smoked cigars like when he won championships. I didn't know it was every day he was smoking like
Tyler, do you smoke cigars?
No, I used to.
Have you ever?
I used to. Yes, I have.
I guess what I'm saying is, have you ever smoked a cigar like the ones he's?
No, like those are probably like $100 cigars.
I know, but those fatties,
you're
like
kind of shorting them probably on the $100.
Yeah, I know.
Probably $1,000 cigars.
No, I've never smoked one like that.
I don't think he's smoking great Swisher Sweets.
Do you remember if it was any good?
A Swisher Sweet?
No, the cigar.
I was at a wedding and I was hammered.
I don't remember.
Yeah, no.
I remember. I mean.
They're good. I like them.
I bet it took you over the top.
Yeah, I mean, I inhaled the first one. I was like, I'm not doing that again. I don't know if we can talk about this on recording, by the way.
He'll delete it. It's all right. He'll edit it.
I can edit, yeah.
He doesn't know how to edit.
No, I figured it out. I told you I did.
Oh, man, how much you been
I
smoking?
don't even know how to do volume or sound.
I know how to do the video now with it. To put video
you know how
behind
to
it.
take parts out and stuff?
Yeah.
I know how to do not in between yet. That's the only thing. So.
Oh, you can just do the ends?
End and the beginnings. That's the one I'm getting at.
Okay, we'll get there.
We're getting there. We're getting baby steps. We're getting there. All right, so let's end it there. So we got the last dance coming up on Sunday. Episode 5 Sunday night. We're gonna talk last dance. We're gonna do a Jordan game. We're gonna do a Jordan game. maybe a Flanagan appearance, possibly.
Special guest.
A special guest. I know he's eager to give his insight, and I'm eager to rip on him a little bit.
This isn't gonna go good.
Tyler, this might bring out your. I think we definitely need to get a couple racer fives in Tyler for the next one for sure. We gotta get a couple in for T for the next one. What do you think, Case?
What happened tonight, Tyler? You seem a little mad.
Mad?
Yeah.
Tyler's not mad.
I was underprepared. That's probably what was the problem.